That's actually an illogical statement to say that I would need to have a definition of anything to critique your definition of it if I have something else that I can make a comparison to that fits with better, that you agree it fits better in. I don't know why you don't get that.
Just okay, what would your position be on if I were to ask you, is January 6th...
What the Are you okay?
What's your answer to that? Is January
Did you just
6th,
go blah, 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 blah?
In this one, we're going to have a look at a debate between Andrew Wilson and Twitch streamer Destiny. This one is basically a request from a viewer that suggested I have a look at Andrew Wilson's channel because he has some good stuff over there. And so that's what I did. One of the first things that I come across was this debate with Destiny. And of course, we love seeing Destiny get schooled. And in this one, I expect him to basically talk fast, cut off Andrew Wilson before he finishes making a point, and generally just be annoying. So with that, let's go ahead and get her started.
Hey, I got a question for Destiny, and I think Andrew can pick up afterwards. So based off of your 4 points that you gave for what would make an insurrection, technically none of your points make it necessary for there to be violence. You say in point 3, force or intimidation, but it doesn't necessarily have to be violent. So based off of that, wouldn't any legal protest where you're advocating for a certain political cause or anything like that in a public space, wouldn't that also, by your definition, count as an insurrection?
No, because I think that the intimidation part is important. The quote that I borrowed from here was from Justice Marshall in 1807. He said, quote, "The most comprehensive definition of levying war against the king or against the United States, which I have seen, requires an assemblage of men ready to act and with an intent to do some treasonable act and armed in warlike manner, or else assembled in such numbers as to supersede the necessity of arms." So I don't think you necessarily have to engage in violence, but I think that having the people there with the purpose of like intimidation and being ready to act with violence, I think is easily enough to satisfy.
No justice, no justice, no peace.
You would have to point to you would have to point to a particular thing.
Yeah, I'll
like,
point to Chaz Chop. So do you think that if you were to take over a big portion or even a small, tiny portion of a state and consider it to now be neutral from the United States itself, that becomes a federal matter?
I don't know. Is that was it considered a federal matter?
Well, don't you think that is resisting federal law? If you make the claim we are seceding this area from the United States, how would that not be federal?
Were they seceding it from the United States?
That's what they
claimed. Were they seceding it from Washington or whatever?
What?
Were they seceding from the United States of America, or were they seceding from like the state or the city?
They said that this is a neutral zone.
So they no
we
longer
are
accepted
seceding.
USD. They no longer employed or recognized.
I'm not sure
like,
that even if you were to have a secession, that would mean you couldn't accept USD anymore.
Okay.
Like why would that matter?
Because, well, it seems like if you're going to secede from a country, it feels like part of that would be like establishing your own government, establishing your own like foreign relations and ambassadors.
You can still have USD, and they did. They were trying to do that. They had their own armed militant group who was there armed, definitely intimidating, refused to allow people to come in and out of the zone. They were trying to start their own economy, their own gardens. They had annexed the buildings which were around them. That definitely seems like they're resisting federal law. You're not allowed to secede in the United States. That's a big no-no.
I don't remember this being. Can you tell me what statements or what they made? I don't know the details of this. What did they make, or what statements did they make about federal secession?
How does Destiny not understand what went on during the Chaz Chop at that time? Is it something that he was just completely ignoring? I very highly doubt it.
Yeah, so Chaz Chop, they considered it the neutral zone. There was multiple statements made that this is no longer part of the United States. We are taking this over, just by the people who were there.
By the people. So if a random person says a particular thing, because I thought you said earlier.
Well, I mean, if a random person takes a baseball bat to someone, you call it a secession.
You said earlier that we couldn't read intent into the Donald Trump crowd, despite the fact that people were hanging signs saying 1776, hang Mike Pence, and the statements that Trump had made. But you say such an inference is fine. So this is again. I didn't. I said the inference is fine.
Wait a second. This is the same as an internal.
Collecting the people there for a given purpose
that makes no sense.
Actually managed to succeed in doing.
Yeah,
it makes perfect sense.
Just be talking over me before I can make the point. Doesn't help your point. No, it actually doesn't make any sense. Because your claim is that you can read into the hearts and minds of these people based on what you perceive their actions to be. It's like, okay, fair enough. So if the people who are there are doing the exact same thing, they're saying, okay, this is now a neutral zone. We're seceding from the United States of America. Why can't we read that into their actions as well, Destiny? It makes no sense.
I would absolutely do that but I don't know of any statement like that. And you can't name a single one. So I don't know what I'm supposed to go. I mean, I don't know what I can work
If
off of.
Chaz Chop, if there was such a statement, let's just assume that there was for a second, would you then consider that to be an insurrection?
If they said that we are going to secede from the United States of America and they had like some organized violent wave and all the other elements were met, then I'd say, yeah, this would count as an insurrection. Easy, sure, easily, of course.
Gotcha.
All right.
But you wouldn't say the same for January 6th, so because you haven't given a definition of insurrection, but that's the difference between good faith and bad faith.
No. That's not bad faith for me to do an internal critique in your definition when I can at least take your definition and say, wait a second, all of these apply to a different category. And that was established very well.
You're critiquing my definition without even having a definition.
I don't need to have a definition to critique yours. That's absurd.
You can't.
That's illogical and absurd.
But the debate. Stop using illogical. It doesn't mean anything. You're abusing the word. Okay.
What does it mean?
The debate was over whether or not January 6th was an insurrection. If you
Uh-huh.
only came to that debate to critique my position, and I shouldn't even let you get away with this. You said earlier that you were neutral on it. You're not neutral on it. The answer for you is you can't compute the question. It's undefined. You don't have a neutral position. If you don't have a definition of insurrection, you can't possibly take a position. It's like dividing by zero. The answer is not neutral or nothing. You just have an undefined
well, I know
position
you
on it
don't
because
like
you don't even
this.
have a definition of a term.
Yeah, I know you hate this, but
that is
illogical. That's actually an illogical statement to say that I would need to have a definition of anything to critique your definition of it if I have something else that I can make a comparison to that fits with better, that you agree it fits better in. I don't know why you don't get that.
Just okay, what would your position be on if I were to ask you, is January 6th...
What the fuck? Are you okay?
What's your answer to that? Is January 6th...
Did you just go blah, 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 blah?
Why? I'm asking you, was January 6th a... What's your answer to that? Would you say you're neutral on that?
Well, that would be incoherent. I wouldn't even understand what you're saying.
Thank you. I agree. Yes. Insurrection, that term is incoherent to you because you have no definition for the word. So I'm uttering nothing to you. When I say insurrection, you have no way to compute the question. So you can't say that you're neutral on it. The same way you can't say you're neutral on it being...
Well, I don't know. I don't know how fucking
insurrection because you have no
I don't know how language works then when you say, okay, this is a Snicker bar and I don't know what a Snicker bar is, but I can't make comparisons to other things so that I can at least understand where you're coming from with what a Snicker bar is. Okay, Destiny.
It's ironic that Destiny says that right there in this instance when the FBI has come out and made a public statement that January 6th was not an insurrection. And by your perspective, to assume that 1 million Trump supporters who showed up that day to commit an insurrection just so happened to conveniently leave all their weapons at home and follow the law, it's not that hard of a concept to understand that if people wanted to commit insurrection that day, there would have been a lot more reports of people having weapons. You didn't see very many, if any, videos of that at all because Trump supporters are, for the most part, law-abiding citizens. They like law and order. They support the police. And when they and they respected the DC laws that ban guns. So Destiny doesn't even know what an insurrection is.
That's correct. That is correct.
That's absurd.
What if I showed you a bar and you're like, that's not a Snicker bar. That looks like a chocolate wafery thing with caramel on it.
Yeah, if it fit the criteria. That's really, isn't that great how that works?
Actually,
if things fit other criteria better.
With a Milky Way. That's actually way more like a Milky Way. No, it's not quite a Milky Way. It's a Snicker bar. And you're like, well, I don't
Well, then it would fit that criteria of a Snickers bar, the ontology of a Snickers bar, better than the ontology of a Milky Way.
You don't have that ontology is not existent for you because it's undefined. You have no definition of what a Snickers bar even is.
You don't need to have a definition for you to understand an ontology of a new concept. What are you talking about? That's crazy.
We're arguing over whether a thing is a thing, whether A is B, and for you, B is undefined. So you can't even be agnostic on the question. You can't compute it. It's gibberish to you, like when I utter gibberish.
No, this is gibberish to me. This makes no sense. Why? There's absolutely no reason why, if you've never, even if you were to grant, I'd never even heard the term insurrection before, that I couldn't understand if you came up with a term for insurrection. I said, well, fit this other criteria better, why it is that you couldn't concede that that was true. That's this absurd logic. And yes, Destiny is illogical.
So that was pretty good. I'm definitely going to look at Andrew Wilson a little bit more, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.